In 1925, Helen Keller addressed Lions at the International Convention in Ohio, USA, where she challenged Lions to become Knights of the Blind, and has since been a century-long mission of impacting millions of lives through vision-related activities. As members of Tema Supreme Leo Club, we are proud to keep this vision. Our passion for service attracted 3 visually impaired individuals to serve with us. Due to the influence of our visually impaired Leos, we have built the culture of going all out. It is in this regard that we have initiated a signature project dubbed Being the Eyes of the Blind. The project seeks to raise funds to provide financial support, food supplies, and other domestic needs of visually impaired students registered under the Ghana Blind Union yearly. A legacy we are proud of. Leveraging on the power of the Leo brand, we publish our stories using the local media, newspapers, online news portals, television broadcasts, pamphlets, and walks through our communities. Social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, WhatsApp, and YouTube are actively engaged as networking tools to have our community informed of our stories. Club officers log on to My LCI to perform administrative functions including updating membership information and accessing reports. My Lion helps members to share, plan, and report service activities. Its design features also assist members to share stories, invite Lions and Leos to participate in service projects, having access to it on all devices, making us very social. In carrying on the baton of our club's legacy, club leaders are encouraged to attend zone meetings, officers' trainings organized by the district, and other international forums like the just ended Second Africa Virtual Forum, and also serving on committees, encouraging leaders to take up activities such as new member orientations, leading projects in partnership with local and international organizations such as the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA, and Rotary Club International, in addition to twining activities.
Welcome, fellow Leos, Lions, distinguished Lions, and distinguished Leos, and guests in the audience. Welcome to the Leo Club Advisory Panel, Communication Through the Ages, brought to you by your Constitutional Area 1 Leo Advisory Panelists. Sit back, enjoy our webinar. We have great stuff for you in store. Just enjoy, and thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for supporting us.
Hi, I'll be going a little bit into our agenda for the webinar today. We're going to start off with introductions. We, our panelists, are going to tell you a little bit more about ourselves, our past, why we're here, and we're going to ask a little bit about you too, and ask where you're from, and learn about your different areas. Then we're going to go into some relevant statistics and information, and give you a bit of like a news report on what's happening in LCI. Then we're going to have our guest speaker, Robert Littlefield, talk about communication. And then we're going to go into our own segment on communication through the ages, where we talk about our personal experiences with communication. We're going to have a little polling and discussion section where we hear about what you think about communication. And finally, we're going to conclude the webinar.
As you guys know, I'm Leonichelle Smith-Abreu. I'm from St. Martin in the area of District 60B. A little fun fact of myself, my island is divided between the Netherlands and France. Also too, I was the chartered Leo district president. I have been serving for the Leos for 4 years, and I'm just happy to work alongside my colleagues.
Hello, I'm Angela Lee. I'm from Bay Area, California, from District 4C4. And I'm one of your second year Leo advisory panelists for CA1 this year. And I became a Leo in 2018 when I chartered the Quantum Auxilia Leo Club. And since then, I've worked as the Leo District President of Leo District 4C4. And I also chaired my district's Leo Lions and Young Lions Leaders Task Force Committee as a Leo Cabinet Liaison. For me, I really love talking with Leos and Lions from all over the world and just hearing those really precious stories of service. And a fun fact about me is that I've been recently picking up guitar through watching YouTube videos.
Hi, I'm Past District Governor Diana from Connecticut, and this is my second year as a Leo Advisory Panelist for Constitutional Area 1. I've been in Leo Advice for 26 years and have started more than a dozen clubs here in my district. I enjoy speaking with Lions from other states about starting Leo clubs and the Leo to Lion transition. As multiple district Leo liaison and district liaison, I have chaired many Leo programs at conferences, and as third vice president of the USA Canada Leo Leadership Foundation, I work on the forum program. A fun fact about me is that I was actually a balloon handler in the New York Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Howdy, guys. Leo Lion, Brandon Johnson from East Tennessee, home of Jack Daniels and Dolly Parton and some of the best country music you can find. It's great to be with you all tonight. A couple cool things about me, or I think they're cool. Maybe you think they're nerdy. I am a past district governor and a past council chair. I do have the honor of being the youngest past district governor and past council chair to ever serve our association. I've been a Lion now for just over 10 years. I was a charter president of a Leo club, a charter president of a campus club, and now a charter president of North America's first Leo Lions Club, where we've got a great club of 25 members whose average age is 29, and almost all of us are former Leos. So it's great to be with you all tonight, and thank you for joining us on your Sunday.
Now, we would like to hear from you guys. Where are you from? You can let us know in the chat, and one of us will also highlight you guys. Don't be shy. We don't bite. So we have greetings from Portmore, Jamaica. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Southern California, Seal Beach. We have, chat is going fast. We have from East Tennessee, Brandon. We have PCC Nanette from Burbank, from Connecticut. We have from 4A1 or Central California, we have Connecticut, Mona, Jamaica, welcome. District 23A, Connecticut. We have a former Leo president, Lion Rumvelt, Lions Club, multiple District 60, Mona, Jamaica, Cromwell, Connecticut, District 482, California, Paramaribo in the building, welcome Suriname. We have Grand Cayman, Guyana. We have St. Martin's South. We have the Lions Club of Kingston, Mona, District 60B, Jamaica. Welcome, guys, welcome. A very much a variety. On to you now, Angela.
Thank you, Nichelle. So I'll be your little news reporter for the webinar per se. And this is the first bit of news that I'll tell you guys about. This is our current statistics for Leo Club reporting. And last year in our constitutional area, we actually reported 100% of our Leo advisors. And this year we want to do the same and have 100% of our Leo advisors updated and reported. And we also have the ambitious goal of having 75% of clubs reporting service activities and 75% of clubs reporting their Leo Club president as well. And we'll definitely need your help in order to make this happen. So after our webinar, if you can go check to see if you reported all this information, your service activities, your Leo Club president, that'd be wonderful. Next slide, please. So this is for the Global Action Team Success Story funding, and I'm letting you know that it's out open for submission. So this program offers districts, undistricted areas, and Leo districts the opportunity to receive funding to support the needs of their area through the sharing and celebration of successes. And after a success story is submitted within this time range of late September through May 1st, depending on whether you're submitting from a district, an undistricted area or a Leo district, you can either get $500 or $350 of funds. And we also have listed here under who, all of the people that can apply for this funding. And that includes any district global action team member, which includes the district governor, the GLT, the GMT, and GST coordinators, the cabinet secretary, any coordinating Lion, and any Leo district president or district Leo chairperson. Next slide. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the Leo and Leo Lion cabinet and council liaison roles. Next slide, please. And in these roles, you'll basically be facilitating communication between Leos and Lions within districts and multiple districts. And in turn, you'll be providing the Leo Club program with more opportunities for young Lions. And this is a really great opportunity for you to further your leadership skills. You can use your experience to improve the Leo Club program. And you can also be a representative of the diverse views of the younger people of our organization. And this is also a great chance to just incorporate younger voices and perspectives at the district and multiple district levels, and just build stronger connections between Leos and Lions. And some other key responsibilities of this role would include promoting the program, the Leo Club program, the Leo Lion program. You can assist in the provisional training for Leo officers, and you can coordinate service activities with Leos and Lions. Next slide, please. So this is for the Leo and Leo Lion district cabinet liaison positions. They're appointed by the district governor, working with the district Leo chair. And these appointees have to be current or past Leo district officers. And if there's not a Leo district in the area, then the appointees will need to be someone who is currently or is a former Leo Club president. Next slide, please. For the Leo and Leo Lion council liaison positions, they need to be appointed by the Council of Governors. And these have to be in consultation with the multiple district Leo chair. And these need to be current or past multiple district officers, or if there's not multiple district, then a current Leo district president works as well. And if there's just no district in the area, then any Leo Lion or Leo who's a current or past Leo Club president can fill this role. Next slide, please. Thank you. And now I'm going to be talking a little bit about our organization's goal for 2026. So we're planning to grow our Leo Club membership to 200,000 reported members, which is why reporting is very important, and also increase Leos transitioning to Lions to 13,000 reported members. And in order to do this, we have our 3 committees, the recruitment committee, the transition committee, and the membership experience committee, all working together towards this goal. Next slide, please. So here are some of the general objectives of these committees. We have the recruitment committee working to equip members with various recruiting tools and improve membership structure focused on growth. We have our membership experience committee working to increase the value of Leo membership by expanding unique opportunities for skill development. And we also have the transition committee, providing Leos with positive experiences and a path to membership, while also training Lions on how to promote transition. And LCIF is also working to strengthen the connection between Leos and the foundation. So a little bit of a, sorry, can we go back a slide? A little bit of a fun fact here is Michelle is actually currently the co-chair of our Leo Advisory Panel's Membership Experience Committee, and I'm the chair of the Advisory Panel's Recruitment Committee. So if any of you guys have any questions or suggestions on what you want us to do for those committees, then feel free to reach out to us through email. We'll have those provided for you in the very last slide of our presentation, and we'll be sending those out after the webinar. So now that's enough talking from me. I know I've been talking a lot, and I'll pass the mic to Diana, who'll be talking a little bit about the USA-Canada Leo Leadership Forum.
Hello, everyone. As you can see on the screen, this is the mission statement of the foundation. Give you a little bit about background. The USA-Canada Leo Leadership Foundation was founded on November 17th of 2016 by 2 wonderful people, Leo Lion President Pablo Romano and First Vice President Lion Adina Callender, with the purpose of organizing the first USA-Canada Leo Leadership Forum. Leo forums are very common around the world, where workshops, service projects, and activities take place with Leos learning from one another and networking while having fun. Our USA-Canada Leo Leadership Forum started in New York 5 years ago with about 25 Leos, and we've grown every single year. The second one was also in New York. The third one was in Arizona. Fourth one was supposed to be in Calgary, Canada, but ended up being held virtually. And the fifth was in California just this past July with 150 plus Leos, Leo Lions, and Lions. We've had Leos attend from Antigua, Aruba, Barbados, Canada, Curacao, St. Martin, Puerto Rico, Suriname, and the United States, including the states of Arizona, California, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Kansas, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Jersey, New York, Texas, and Wisconsin. As you can see, this is a picture of one of the first forums. No, actually, that's the last forum that we just had here in California. We have the next slide, please. These are more pictures from California. The forum will help you be leaders in the future. It will be a very positive experience that you won't forget, and you make connections and friendships that you will have for a lifetime. We are excited to announce that our next forum will take place in Chicago, Illinois in August 2023, which will include a visit to LCI headquarters. So look for upcoming info at leosforum.org. We'd hope to see you all there. Next slide. We actually visited Pismo Beach, which was lots of fun. Had a great time. The host, California, was in Visalia, and our host committee did a great job. We got to go to Pismo Beach, and I think everybody had a wonderful time. As you can see, these are more pictures from that. I'd also like to mention that the Lions Club International Convention will be held in Boston, Massachusetts, July 7th through the 11th, 2023. We have an endorsed candidate for president of LCI from Connecticut, past International Director Mark Lyon. We're so excited. So we'd love to see as many of you Leo Lions and Lions there to support him. Thank you. Over to Leo Lion, Brandon.
Thank you so much. So I have the honor today to introduce our guest speaker. Past International Director Robert Littlefield is from Moorhead, Minnesota, and was elected to serve a 2-year term back in 2014 in Toronto. He's a member of the Fargo Lions Club since 1984 and has held many offices within the association. He's won a multitude of awards, but for those of us that know Past Director Littlefield, a couple of things that I'll highlight about him. One, he is actually the chair of the communications department at Central Florida University. So it's really cool to have him with us today. Also, if you haven't read it, he actually wrote a book on different stories that occurred through Lionism, through service, through our foundation, empowering folks. And so please go and check that out. All proceeds and all profits go to support our foundation. Unfortunately, Past Director Robert Littlefield couldn't be with us today, so he has recorded his message, and we really appreciate that. So now you'll get to hear from our Past International Director, Littlefield.
Paul Watzlawick, a famous Austrian communicator, developed a series of axioms about communication that I think are relevant to us. And one of those axioms is that you cannot not communicate. Essentially, what Watzlawick was saying is that no matter what you do, you're going to always be sending a message, even when you're not speaking. The impact of communication is significant. And in our world today, being able to communicate effectively is something that we all should be striving to achieve, effective communication. So what I'd like to do in this short presentation is to talk to you about the 3 basic parts of the communication model, and then some strategies that we can use to help improve our communication so that even though we don't always have as much success, we can at least be controlling and striving to be an effective communicator, even when we don't even realize that we're communicating. So let's first talk about the 3 basic parts of communication in the model. We have the source of the message, or the speaker. We have the content of the message, or the speech or the presentation. And then we have the audiences that we are trying to reach, the people that we're talking to. Each part of this model is playing an active role all the time. When we're the speaker, we're communicating. When we are the audience, we're also communicating back to the speaker. So we're always communicating. We cannot not communicate. But let's look at the three parts and consider what some strategies are that can help us to be more effective. When thinking about the perspective of the communicator, there are some things that we can control. For example, we can control how we appear to our audience. Are we dressed casually? Are we dressed up with a suit and tie? How do we look? Studies have shown that sometimes the way you appear gives you more credibility because it looks like you have prepared for the event. So if you're going to talk to a group of Leos, you might be casual because you're among your peers. If you're going to communicate perhaps with a Lions club of people that you don't know, maybe you'll wear a Lions shirt or something with a logo on it, or maybe you'll put on a sport coat because you want to make sure that you make a good impression. So how you look as a speaker can be something that you can control. Another thing you can control is the way you communicate, being formal or casual in your communication. You might, if you're sitting among some Leos, you might sit in a circle and talk to them. You might not stand up in the front and give a speech. But when you go to a Lions club that's used to having perhaps more formal activities, going up to a podium or standing in front of the group might be what's expected. So you need to give some thought. How are you going to communicate? Another thing that you can control is the language that you use. When we're talking to our friends or we're talking to our peers, we often can use informal language. We can make jokes. We can talk with each other informally because we feel more comfortable. When you go and speak to a Lions club or a group of people that you don't know, you might want to spend some time thinking about how are you going to talk about things? How are you going to describe things? Your language will make a difference. So as a speaker, how you look and the style of your presentation and your language can affect the way that you communicate. The second part of the model is the message, what you're saying. Again, you have some control over this. There are several different types of speaking, and each one has its advantages. So when you go to a club or a group that you don't know, you may want to write down the important points that you want to share, because those points are going to be things that remind you and help you to guide yourself through the presentation so you don't forget something. Writing things down in advance requires more time and it requires some thought. But in the end, those talking points will help you to be more effective. Another form of putting your message together is something called extemporaneous speaking. In extemporaneous speaking, you have the main ideas that you're going to talk about, but you adapt and change those concepts or those ideas when you get in front of the audience. So for example, I might have several points that I want to talk about. And when I'm speaking to Leos, I might use examples from school or from activities that we're in or projects that we've done that would be familiar and appealing to a young audience. When I go to a group of people that I don't know that might be older adults, I might use examples that would be recognized by them, things that they would be familiar with. Maybe I'd use a historical example. Maybe I'd think of some things, examples that would be relevant to my audience. So I would have the same main points, but I would be willing and able to change my examples and be more extemporaneous and talking about things. Tonight, I'm speaking from notes, and so I am extemporaneous. I haven't written everything out, but I'm keeping myself organized by using notes, and that is what the content of your speech can be, or your presentation. So when you prepare, you might write everything out, takes more time, and then once you have it, you use that as a basis for your presentation. Or you might be more extemporaneous, where you have some talking points and you use different examples depending on your audience. One of the things that often is the way we appear is that we seem to speak off the cuff. We're asked a question, we have to answer it. For example, if you go to a group of people that you don't know and they ask you a question, you have to be prepared to think of an answer. And so your message, you have to have your topic needs to be familiar to you so that you can answer questions about it and appear to be knowledgeable. When you put your message together, there's different kinds of evidence that you can use. Sometimes people like facts. They want to know how many people were served. They want to know how much you raised or how much time you spent. They're going to want to have that factual information because that shows what you did. Some people really love stories. And I would say that every time you go into a group of people, there should be a story that you can tell. Something that you did, something that affected you, something that made a difference. Having those informal stories, the things that are touching to you will also be touching to members of your audience. And that's something you think about. Some people like facts and logic. Some people like stories that touch the heart. The main thing that you need to remember is that when you speak to a group, you need to make sure that you have something to say because you've been invited to speak and people want to take something away from your comments. So it's really important that you don't just blow it off, that you do spend some time thinking about, what do I want them to take away? What do I want them to know after I'm done speaking? So the second part of the message or of the model is the message, the speech that you're giving, and how that speech actually demonstrates what you want to communicate. Now, the third part of the model is the audience. And there are as many different audiences as there are people who listen to you speak. And often we think, well, I'll just give the message and it'll appeal to everyone. But that's not true because there are different kinds of audiences. When we're talking to members of Lions clubs or Leo clubs, where we know something about the organization, we can use examples that Lions and Leos understand. But when we go to a group of people, like people who aren't affiliated with our organization, people in the community, we have to tailor our comments for those particular audiences. We have to think about how will they want to get the information that we're going to share. If they are interested in learning about Lions and you're trying to persuade them to do something, they may not respond the way you want them to. We need to think about our audience. And there was a communication specialist whose name was Chaim Perlman. He was a French scholar, and he talks about the universal audience and the particular audience. And in some ways, I think there are some things that the universal audience will understand and appreciate. Things about helping the community, helping those in need, being a servant leader. Those are broad kinds of topics that have good appeal to a wide audience, a universal audience. But when you think about a particular audience, you might want to tailor your comments. Like for young people, explaining how being involved in a service organization can help you develop a good resume so that when you apply for jobs or you apply to college, you're going to show that you've been active. That's an appeal that a young person might be interested in. You wouldn't use that same appeal when you're talking with people who are in their mid-careers and are older, because they might want to do service for a totally different reason. They might want to make the world a better place. Maybe they want to just give back because they benefited. A lot of times people who have benefited from working with or received glasses, or they've benefited from Lions, later in life they say, I want to give back, I want to be involved. So understanding that you have a universal or a broad audience, and you have particular audiences, that can really help you when you're trying to develop your message, because it focuses and it gives you credibility. Credibility is a very important part of speaking, because your audience, you want your audiences to think what you know what you're talking about. And if you are a young person speaking to young people, you want credibility with your group. When you're a young person speaking to an older group, you may have to establish credibility in different ways. And so that's where, if you are trying to be as effective as you can be, you're going to want to think about the things you can control as a speaker, your preparation of the materials that you're sharing with your audiences, and the use of examples that appeal to your particular audience that you're dealing with at the time. You know, we're always communicating. We cannot not communicate. So the most important thing that we can do is to try to do the best we can to control the things that we can control. You know, you can be talking in the front of the room and somebody can bust into the room and interrupt you, and you can't control that. You have to stop and gather your thoughts and go on. But you can control a lot of things. And as a young communicator, I think we all need to speak up. We need to be effective, because there's no better advocates for Lions than people who are articulate communicators. And this is something that we should always be working on. We should practice, and we should take it seriously, because if you can be an effective communicator, you very likely will make a difference in someone's life. You may be able to attract someone to membership in Lions or Leos, and you may be able to move us forward in the world today. So you cannot not communicate. I encourage you all to do the best you can to control the things you can control, to be an effective speaker for your Leo group or Lions Clubs International.
Thank you so much, Past Director Littlefield. We really, really appreciate him being here with us. And one person that you're not going to see during any of this, but that has been a huge help, and I just want to give a special thank you to, is District Governor Daniel Marney Elkins. He is providing technical support for this, just like he does for countless other webinars and such. So Daniel, thank you so much for your help. We really, really appreciate you. And next slide, please.
I guess that's me. Thank you, Brandon. Well, I think they put me on first because I have been around through quite a few of the ages. Communication has changed over the ages, most obviously by the mode of communication. I remember having to get telephone calls done in the early evening before 9 p.m. and having to wait for the mail for everything. Then we got cell phones and we got fax machines and computers. Now social media is the thing. One positive thing that came out of the world shutting down because of COVID is that we were all forced to communicate in other ways than in person, which actually moved the Lions ahead about 10 years, in my opinion. Lions had to learn to participate in Zoom meetings. And who better to teach us about social media than our youth? They helped us move into the future. However, we also went back to basics during COVID by putting signs in windows, thanking people, and checking on people to see if we could help them in any way. Communication is and always will be important, very important. Leo Club advisors are the main communicators with our Leos. They are motivators, mentors, counselors, liaisons, and humanitarians, and service role models. Communication needs to flow both ways. It's just as important to encourage volunteers to share their thoughts and ideas with the organization and its leaders as it is to make sure that information flows to the volunteers. We need to teach and support our Leos and help them reach their potential as leaders. We have to listen to their ideas, understand their needs, and in turn help them find their individual talents and find ways to use them to instill self-confidence. How do we communicate effectively with young people? By actively listening. It's a way of listening and responding to another person and improves mutual understanding. Empathizing with their point of view. Understand and share the feelings of another. Counselors need to be able to empathize with people. Developing trusting relationships. Keep and follow through on commitments you make. Be consistent. Understanding nonverbal communication. Referring to communication that occurs through means of other than words, such as body language, gestures, and silence. Building rapport, a close and harmonious relationship in which the people or groups concerned understand each other's feelings or ideas and therefore communicate well. Explaining, summarizing, and providing information. So important. I'd like to tell you a little story. I brought some Leos to a Lions convention and I brought them through the exhibits. And as we were walking out, one of my Leos that I had for a while said, "Gee, Mrs. Grisey, I didn't know that Lions did so much with vision." And I kind of stepped back and said to myself, I'm not doing my job. How did they not know that after all this time? But again, I think sometimes we just don't communicate all the things that we're thinking because maybe we think most people know it, because I had been a Lion for a long time. So I had to rethink make sure that I was communicating everything to them. Giving feedback in a clear way. And most of all, having fun. Be sure to explain how important communication is on every level. Have another story. Our Leo Club does a Halloween party for children, and we've had up to 200 kids. The Leos plan the entire party. They plan the games. They buy the prizes. They bring baked goods. They dress up. We have musical chairs, the whole 9 yards. They do the whole thing. So they all had certain things they were supposed to bring. The night before the party, I called the president of the club, who had volunteered to bring her sister's plastic pool, because we were going to put the styrofoam peanuts in there and put little prizes for little kids to put their hands in, because we didn't have a lot of games for them to play. So I called her the night before and I said, "Hi, so don't forget to bring your sister's pool." And there was dead silence on the other end of the phone. And I said, "What's the matter?" And she said, "Well, my father ran it over." So I was like, okay, when were you going to tell me that? Because obviously we can take care of things, but only if you tell us. If something happens or comes up that makes it impossible for you to do or bring, you just have to make sure you let someone know as soon as you can so it can be taken care of, because the success of that event or that project may depend on what you were supposed to do or bring, no matter how big or how small. Lions need to partner with Leos. It is important to involve them in projects from the beginning. They need to be part of the planning, whether it be a service project or a fundraiser, so they can see the steps firsthand, contribute, and be part of the team. Delegate specific roles or positions to them, being careful to be clear in describing what is expected, and sometimes why they need to do something so they understand why, and answer any questions. Talk to Leos as you do any other person working on a project. Be sure not to be condescending. After the event or service, go over positive things and things that maybe could be done better or differently. Celebrate with them and thank them so they experience what it is to collaborate and be part of the team. You have the next slide, please. Specific things to do that improve communication skills. Really listen. Stop what you're doing, look them in the eye, and don't interrupt. And don't always be thinking of how you're going to answer or if you're going to answer. Realize that who you are talking to matters. Body language matters. Check your message before hitting send. Try to make sure it won't be misunderstood or taken the wrong way. Be brief yet specific. Write things down. Sometimes it's better to pick up the phone so that things won't be misunderstood. And if they have questions, you can talk about it. And it's sometimes better. Also, always think before you speak. Maintaining effective volunteer communication is essential to the success of every nonprofit organization. To keep volunteers energized and engaged in their work, it's important to let them know what the organization's needs are, express appreciation for their efforts, and make sure they understand how vital their contributions are. Effective communication is a crucial element for building lasting relationships with volunteers. And all of our volunteers are so important to us. Thank you. Next slide, please. I'd like to turn this over to Leo Nichelle, who's going to be touching base on the unique ways Leos communicate.
Thank you, Lion Diana. Great points. Why is communication important in our in our daily life? Communication helps us build relationships by allowing us to share our experience, needs, and help us connect with others. And who are perfect than Leos? We connect in so many different unique ways that we are inspiring each other. The essence, allowing us to express our feelings, pass on information, and just share thoughts. We all need to communicate. Next slide. Effective communication enhances us as Leos and Lions to boost team building and reduce us from having frustration. In a personal setting, communication helps us foster stronger relationships and build trust, and provides new opportunities and new ways on how we can serve as Leos. As you can see in Constitutional Area 1, Leos have been serving in multiple new ways and have new ideas and have been creating and making different ways on how to serve our community. We should be proud and be inspired by our Leos and how they take on the different challenges, especially when it came to the pandemic, and turn over that idea and how they can still communicate with each other and create certain projects to build one another. Helping people at all levels to communicate empowers and to recognize the important issues and find common grounds for action and build a sense of identity and participation. More important, we as Leos, we build a sense of identity. We help our Lions as well, because we see ourselves not only becoming Leos, but Leo Lions and Lions in the future. So by effective communication, we can see that transcend in not only our service projects, but how we treat each other. Next slide. There's no doubt that communication plays a vital role in human life and human society. It not only helps us facilitate processes of sharing information and knowledge with others, but it also helps people to develop relationships. Therefore, the importance of communication cannot be underestimated. Not only that, should we not underestimate how we communicate with Leos, but Leos need to also communicate with our Lions effectively, because together we can move mountains, together we can. Next slide. Effective communication requires us to be clear and complete in what we're trying to express. Being effective communicators in our professional, yet even personal lives, helps us learn skills to exchange information with clarity, empathy, and understanding. Next slide. Communication is the key to influencing others and creating powerful teams, relationships, and joint forces to achieve successful outcomes. And we can admit that successful outcomes do come out when we all together work effectively in communicating with one another. Next slide. I would like to close off with, coming together is a beginning, keeping together is a progress, working together is a success. Together, we can move mountains. Next slide. Now, I have the pleasure of welcoming Leo Lion, Brandon Johnson, one I could say a dear friend. He will be touching base on his experiences, not only with his Leos, but also Leo Lions and his interactions. Brandon, the floor is yours.
Hey, thank you so much, Leo and Nichelle. I really appreciate you. So I want to talk a little bit about some success tips, and then I want to talk about a couple of moments where communication may have really caused some problems. So as I said during my introduction, I have the really cool opportunity of being the club president of the first Leo Lions Club in North America. And some of you all may say, well, what in the world is a Leo Lions Club? A Leo Lions Club is a club in which the majority of members are former Leos. And so while they are somewhat popular all throughout the world, they're pretty new to Lionism. And we have the first one here in North America. You can see my really cool Leo Lion t-shirt. And so we've got a great club. But one thing that I noticed when I transitioned from a regular club to a Leo Lions Club was the interesting and unique ways in which people, even my age, I'm 28, communicate with one another. And so as president of the Lions Club before, I was president of a traditional Lions Club. Our average age, just like most, was somewhere around 60. And so we would send out an email. We would send out an email with the meeting minutes, and we would send out an email and let everybody know the next time that our meeting was to occur. And everybody would show up, right? It was a really easy form of communication. And so when we started this Leo Lions Club, I thought, okay, great. We've got all these young people. All they have to do is look at their phone, look at the app on their phone for their email, click it. They'll know, they'll get it, right? Wrong. It's interesting because so many young people, there's so many different platforms for communication that everybody kind of prefers something differently. So when you get a message in my club, when we send out a club meeting reminder, we send out some key information, when we send out a financial update, no matter what we send out, we send it via email. We post it in our private Facebook group. We put it in our group me. We put it in our WhatsApp. People may get it on Instagram, and the list kind of goes on and on and on. So we try to just over communicate to the point, and I don't know if I said email, but of course we email it out as well. But we try to over communicate to the point because some people may prefer to use email. Some people may prefer to use Facebook Messenger. And it's pretty neat. In our own Leo advisory panel discussion, we kind of do that same thing. We tried WhatsApp at first, but some folks have some communication barriers with WhatsApp. We tried email. We tried a group text message thread at one point, and one of the members of our committee wasn't able to get group text messages for some strange reason. So it's kind of unique because we've been able to communicate in a lot of different ways. And so a lot of times it may be frustrating for your person who may be sending out messages, whether you have a club secretary that does that, or in your club president does. But at the end of the day, what's really important is getting our Leos, our Leo Lions, and all of our members engaged in whatever we're doing, meeting them where they are, and kind of moving that ball forward. And I want to talk very briefly about a couple of stories where Lions in my own area have dropped the ball. And Past District Governor Wendy Kane's on this call, so she's probably thinking, oh gosh, what's Brandon going to say? But when I was in college, we had a Campus Lions Club. And this Campus Lions Club was a very great club, still around today. In fact, October next month will make their 10-year anniversary. So I'm really excited to celebrate with them with that. But very vibrant club with quite a few members at this point. And we get a call from a local club. And the local club says, hey, we've got this project going on. We need some help. Can you guys come out and help us? So, of course, our president at the time puts it all out, starts communicating through those same channels that I was mentioning earlier. And about a dozen or so young Campus Lions show up. Some are former Leos, many are not. And they show up and they want to help on this service project. And so it's actually a fundraiser. And so they show up. And I was one of these dozen Lions or so. And there's one singular Lion from the regular club, from the standard Lions Club. And that one singular Lion very nicely starts kind of pointing us on what to do. And so we start basically setting up a couple hours of hard physical labor for this fundraiser. And so we're setting up, we're sweating, right? Our armpits are gross. It's not a good situation. And it was supposed to start in about 15 to 20 minutes before it's supposed to start. You see the members of this Lions Club kind of walk in, coat and tie, start glad handing, shaking hands with people, while the campus Lions are kind of sitting in the corner, exhausted. And so the event wraps up, and the same thing, the same Lion kind of comes back over to our campus Lion. All the standard Lions clubs in their coat and tie and their lapel pins with their Melvin Jones fellow on it, right? They're sitting to the side, and they come to the young whippersnappers, and yet again, they say, hey, can you help us tear all this down? And what they really meant, what they were really saying was, hey, we're going to sit in this corner and talk while you all take this down. And so we disassemble all of this fundraiser and pack it all up. And yet again, we're sweaty. It's hard physical manual labor. And the kind of group of the average Lions come over, or the regular Lions, however you want to refer to them, and say, okay, thank you guys. We're all going to eat at this steakhouse here in town. You all have a good night. Don't even invite our campus club members. Now, while their communication was constantly and consistently very kind and respectful, what do you think the nonverbal communication of that was? How do you think that the young Lions who showed up did a lot of hard work and were kind of treated almost like pack mules, how do you think that they felt during that? And so one thing to be so super mindful of, whether you're working with a young Lion, Leo Lions, Leos, is that we look at them as partners and we look at them as equals. And the fact that everyone brings something really unique and dynamic and interesting to the table, and you can't just pawn off that hard work on them. Another story that I'll tell briefly is a group of us were going to the International Convention in Toronto, the same one where our guest speaker, past International Director Littlefield, was elected. And we had a big charter bus from my state going to Toronto. And we were really excited. We had, I think, 10 campus Lions all going to the International Convention from Little Rural, East Tennessee, all the way to Toronto, Canada. Very, very excited. We all paid the same amount. There was no special scholarship. We had been fundraising. We had done a lot of different things, worked with our university to receive a grant for this leadership training that we were going to receive at Toronto. And we show up, and there's a charter bus, and some Lion gets on and they say, hey, can you mind to move a seat back? And another Lion gets on and they say, hey, do you mind to move a seat to the back? And another Lion gets on and they say, hey, you mind to sit a seat to the back? And by the time we were loaded on this bus, now mind you can imagine how many hours, I think it was something like 18 hours from Tennessee to Toronto, this tour bus had. And by the end of it, we were at, all the campus Lions were at the very, very back of the bus. And in fact, you all may be familiar, if you've been on like a coach bus, they have these little half seats that aren't really seats unless maybe you're like a child or an infant or incredibly short, that you're like, oh, who would ever sit there? Well, that trip we did. And they face one another, right? So these seats, and you're kind of looking at somebody, and you're looking at somebody for 18 hours, and the bathroom is right here to the side. And you know how bathrooms on tour buses smell. And we're sitting there. And we start looking up, and come to find out there were plenty of seats at the front, but these Lions who were, kind of more of your average Lion, they needed somewhere for their pocketbook to go, or they wanted to stretch their legs out, or they didn't really feel like sitting next to anybody. So even though all of these people were all Lions, right? The people with me were as much a Lion as anybody else on the bus. And the only difference, we paid the same amount, was that we were younger. And there's a past council chair from Kentucky, Bob Sweat, him and his wife, who was a wonderful lady who's since passed, came and they said, this isn't right. You're a younger person, but we shouldn't literally put you on the back of the bus. So they actually gave up their seats and swapped in and out for that entire trip there and back to Canada with the Lions, the young Lions on that bus, because they recognized what was going on. I had a Lion who got to Toronto. He was actually our club president at the time. He said, listen, if this is the way that Lions treat young members of the association, I don't want to be a member anymore. skipped half the international convention, missed all the fun and life-changing experiences there, and him and his girlfriend, who was a Lion at the time, booked a plane back to East Tennessee. What kind of communication problems, I'm sure there's tons going through your head right now, happened in that type of situation? And so if we're serious about wanting young members in our association, if we're serious about wanting to support Leos and young Lions and Leo Lions, we have to look at the way, not just in the way that we communicate verbally, but non-verbally too. And those actions that we as Lions make and those decisions that we make about how we include people and how we love people and how we show each other kindness. And so now I'm going to continue on. I can see Leo Angela, who's like our leader, giving me the stink eye. So Daniel, would you mind to go ahead and go to the next slide, please? So now is where we really want to hear from you all. We want this to be interactive and inclusive. And so we're going to go into some polling questions. Daniel, can you please pull up the first one? Wonderful. So before you click on anything, this is a question specifically for Leos. So Leos, I find it intimidating or uncomfortable to communicate with Lions. If you are a Lion, please hit not applicable there at the bottom. But if you were a Leo, please select an answer. I'm not sure if we're going to have any Leos join with us today. Oh, we've got some popping up here. And so do you find it intimidating or uncomfortable to communicate with Lions? And these are completely anonymous. So don't feel like anybody's going to call you out. All right, we'll give just another second here. Perfect. Can everybody see those results? Great. So what we really want to hone in on here are, we had a couple of Leos who would agree that they find it intimidating or uncomfortable to communicate with Lions. Now, I don't know about you all, but if I were communicating with a Leo and they found it intimidating or uncomfortable, I would feel awful and would be immediately looking for ways to kind of change that communication style. We had some Leos who were kind of neutral on that. So they didn't agree or disagree that communicating with Lions made them uncomfortable. So maybe they've had a mixed opinion. And then we have some who disagreed as well, which is really great. And that's what we want. We want Leos to be completely comfortable communicating with Lions in every type of interaction. So some interesting results there. Can we get the next question, please? So Lions, I am unsure of how to communicate with Leos. Speaking of Leos, Leo and Michelle, I'm going to let you handle the discussion for this.
Thank you, Brandon, for the honors. How can I beat your act now?
I think they would much rather hear from you than me anyways.
I highly doubt that. Okay. So, okay, they're still going. All right. So can everyone see the results? So far we have 6% strongly agree that they're unsure of how to communicate with Leos. 9% agree. We have 19% neutral, and we have 38% who disagree, and we have 28% who strongly disagrees. And that's fine. You know, we love that, to see this clear, open communication, for people to be open and honest, that indeed sometimes speaking with Leos, not because, as you know, Leos are separated between alphas and omegas. So how would you communicate with the alphas is differently to how you would communicate with omegas, as omegas being young adults. So sometimes indeed communication can be difficult or a bit challenging because of the generations, but not to say that it cannot be worked on, because we are all human beings. And once we have a set goal, I believe anything can be overcome and achieved. we're not expecting everyone. Rome was never built in a day, so we can't expect a bridge communication to happen overnight. And yes, indeed, each of us are different, a very unique puzzle to a piece that makes us unique into this organization. So all the time we will not fit in that piece. So we have to also acknowledge that in communication, not to agree to disagree sometimes. So thank you for that, guys. So we're gonna send the next question. And this one is Leos and social media. So you guys select, everyone is welcome to join. How do they communicate? And see all Leos communicate. Which are your form of communications? We have Facebook Messenger, GroupMe, WhatsApp, iMessage, Discord, Twitter, Slack. Which ones are your favorite form of communication? Don't forget, we have Instagram.
And Nichelle, Discord is an absolutely no-go for me. I cannot figure it out. Like this is where I know that I'm really starting to get old, because I can't figure it out. No matter how hard I try, a lot of my friends use it just over my head.
I am trying. You'll have to show me though that I've never known about that one. Very different. GroupMe neither.
Oh.
I am not aware of GroupMe.
I would love to teach you too about Discord. I actually use that social media platform a lot. It's a really good way, I think, of organizing different channels. And I chat with my friends on there and also have my Leo Club in Discord on there too. So even using it for business and for personal relationships, and I think it's great.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
I'm happy to teach you guys.
with the younger folks.
So right now we have 3% use Instagram, Facebook Message. We have 3%, 44% with WhatsApp, 0% with GroupMe, 0% with iMessage. So Apple gets no love here. Discord, 0%, Twitter gets 0%, Slack 3%, and then we have some Lions who answered 47%. So basically, majority WhatsApp rules, and we see some do utilize Instagram and Facebook Messenger. So we can keep that for future references and also let our representatives know the different means of communication that you guys are more comfortable with. Now for Lions, you guys, don't worry, we don't forget you guys. You can go ahead and answer. Which social media platforms would you prefer to communicate the most?
I just want to tell you, Nichelle, I'm very proud to say that I use at least 4 of those.
Hey,
Surprisingly.
Diana, you beat me. I barely use most of these. Horrible at WhatsApp sometimes.
I'm pretty flexible, actually. I've used all of these. So any of these would work for me.
See, now, Angela, now you've been holding a secret with us now.
Yeah.
You really need to teach us and show us.
I'll teach you all the social medias, anything you need to know.
And one thing I do want to highlight as folks are voting here, just how cool I think our Leo advisory panel is. Maybe I'm a little biased, but we have Leo Angela, who is an Alpha Leo. We have Leo Nichelle, who is an Omega Leo. I am a Leo Lion, and Diana is a Lion. So the 4 major groups of Lions are all represented on our panel. So I think that's really, really cool. And that wasn't necessarily intentional. It just kind of happened that way. So
Yeah, it did. I mean, we work very well. So we have 8% for Instagram, 14% for Facebook Messenger. We have 3% for GroupMe, 65% for WhatsApp. iMessage gets some love here. We have 3%, and we have 3% for Twitter, and we have the Leos who answered non-applicable to them. So great. So with 68% participated in that. Thank you guys for that. Angela?
Hi, everybody. So I was originally going to do a conclusion segment after this, but there's a message I'd like to say first. I was very inspired hearing the talks of my fellow Leo advisory panelists, and I actually want to give my own little communication of the ages segment now. Brandon said I was giving him the stink eye during his talk, but no, I was just frantically typing down my thoughts because I was inspired by his really beautiful message. So I've had a very explosive Leo journey of sorts. I've been a part of the organization for just a little bit over 4 years. And I very quickly entered this sort of international plane and started interacting with adults. And it was definitely a very intimidating experience for a young teenager like me. I think I was 16, 17 when I first became a Leo advisory panelist. So I was really awkward and very stiff. I was trying to sound all formal and sound like I knew what I was doing when I was talking to Lions. And I'm sure Diana can probably attest to that for our first meeting of how awkward I was. But when I started really talking to Lions and communicating with them, and I got to know them, I learned that Lions are my friends. They're just like the Leos, we're all friends. And what led to this realization was proper, I was just reading the chat, but was proper communication. So I was just talking with Lions like I would normally with my friends, with the Leos, except without any of the slang, of course. And by talking with each other, I say, sorry, I messed up a little bit because this is very last second of me, but when I say together we can, I really mean that. I believe that by talking with each other as equals, having this proper communication, we, Leos and Lions working together, we can do anything. We can help our communities through our incredible services, and we can forge these unbreakable friendships over time, just like the friendships that I have with Brandon, with Diana, and with Michelle. And thank you so much. That was my little impromptu segment.
Aw, that's so sweet, Angela. Honestly,
I love you guys.
we love you too. Aw.
To end this on.
That was great.
And
So I
folks,
see here
And
in the comments, they're mentioning phone call has not made it on the list. I don't think so. Well, who can phone call when you can send a voice note?
yeah, I guess instead of phone calls, we do have Zoom calls now, and we can call into Zoom. So it's a similar function.
So here, thank you guys for coming to our webinar. We appreciate the support and love. As you can see under each of our beautiful faces, we have our email addresses that you can reach us at any time, any questions or any information that we have shared here today with you. We are, as your Leo advisory panelists for Constitutional Area 1, we're here to lend support in any way and any means that we can, as we want to ensure that everyone is informed and information is communicated clearly. We hope you enjoyed our segment on communication through the ages, listening to the stories and even the impromptu stories of our experiences, what we have learned thus far, and what we continue to learn as we continue this journey. This was an amazing webinar. I would like to thank my colleagues for being here. Thank you all for the guests that are in the audience, everyone, sorry, stuttering. And yes, so I do not know if my colleagues also to have a word to say, but I would like to thank everyone for this amazing evening, being here with us and just experiencing the journey with us.
Thank you for coming, everyone. I'd just like to add that we'll also be sending out these slides and also the recorded live stream after the presentation to everyone who registered. So if you want to take this presentation, share with some friends, some Leos maybe, then you can do that from our information. And once again, our contact information is here, and you can also access that through the slides. So feel free to communicate with us. And actually, as Robert Littlefield says, we cannot not communicate.